starting to strain. Don't say anything you don't want your grandmother to hear.
Boy, we have so many things.
On and around.
Oh, Bruce, how are you?
Everybody's all set up, ready to go? Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm here.
Okay,
Let's get started.
oh wait, okay, we do have a quorum. We're gonna go ahead and get started.
Good sight too.
What time is it?
Yeah, where is
I thought I was supposed to start till 6.
The vice mayor is on his way home from work, and so is Vanessa. And I don't know where Gilbert's at. I haven't heard from him. That's strange, actually. All right, well, good evening, everyone. We are excited to have a work session today on the Superior Tourism and Recreation team. So I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. I will do roll call. Councilmember Byrd.
Here.
Councilmember Armitage.
Here.
Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
I am present. Please let the record show that Councilmember Navarrete and Vice Mayor Alonso will be a little bit tardy. They're on their way. And Councilmember Aguilar will excuse him for tonight. He may have forgotten about this meeting. We'll move forward. If everybody would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And today we have a very important presentation, again by the Superior Tourism and Recreation team. Council, many of you are familiar with what was originally the Recreational Users Group Plan that was included with the Resolution Copper FEIS. As you know, that's been held up for a while, but the Forest Service has included, as you know, we're seeing an increase in recreation around the Tonto National Forest here in Superior. And so they are working on this plan, the Superior Tourism and Recreation team, and it's been about a year and a half of consultation, planning, and there were a lot of stakeholders involved. Most of them had also been involved with RUG. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Julia. Are you kicking everything off? To Julia, and she will be explaining the process, and they have a nice presentation for us today. So turn it over to you.
Good evening. Thanks for the introduction, Major.
You might want to use the mic because it is being recorded for anybody who might be watching on the YouTube channel.
Sorry, this is my first Superior Town Council meeting. Thank you for the introduction, Mayor Bessich. We are here as the Superior Tourism and Recreation team. I'm Julia Guglielmo, the facilitator, so a neutral person who's just helping to coordinate the effort. And we have a number of partners who have been involved tonight to give you a presentation. So I think if you would put your attention on the presentation on the screen. You also have copies in front of you, as well as some handouts about the effort. There's a one-page overview about what the team has been up to, as well as proposed projects, which are very exciting. So I'm not sure how it's easiest to have someone speak and present. The partners are going to introduce themselves and then do the presentation. So perhaps the Forest Service could start and come up to the microphone, introduce yourself, and why you're interested in START and what your involvement has been, and then we can rotate through.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jason Scow. I'm the Recreation Staff Officer for the south half of the Tonto, and we've been involved with various planning projects around Superior over the years, and so I've been involved for a lot of years now in a lot of those, and this is just another project that we're doing, and I'm looking forward to going on with the presentation. Do we want to introduce? Sure. Okay.
Evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Cheryl Cormack, and I'm the Recreation Specialist for the Globe Ranger District. The Globe Ranger District encompasses parts of Globe and also Superior and north of Globe. So this is our area that we manage. We manage all recreation everywhere. And I've been involved probably for 5 years. Would anybody else like to know?
Good evening, everyone. My name's Adam Bromley. I'm the district ranger for the Globe Ranger District, so I supervise all resource areas, basically from here in Superior all the way up through Globe, past that. So, here for supporting folks and be part of this effort. It's nice to be here. Nice to see some of you I haven't seen for a while.
Good evening, I'm Greg Waterman, and I'm a hiker from Sons of the Anthem Hiking Club, actually in the town of Florence, but we've been hiking up here, hiking here for 15 years, and very interested in helping the community in the area to develop more recreation and help protect what we have here and help the town. So,
Good evening, my name is John Wicker. I'm representing Tonto Recreation Alliance, which is a group of volunteers that does all the service that we can for motorized recreation all over the Tonto. We do everything from trail inventory to trail signage, trail repair, and education as much as we can, especially in the bigger signs and stuff that we do.
Okay, I think that introduces everybody that will be presenting tonight. So if you could turn your attention to the screen, a lot of this information you have in your packet, but we're going to go through this. So first, I want to say thanks to the town council for hearing our presentation, and thanks to the mayor and to Todd Pryor. They've been really instrumental in this process and has been involved for a long time. So this is the Superior Tourism and Recreation Team. The acronym is START, in case I say that later on. This is not. Okay, there we go. So the purpose for tonight's session is we're going to learn about START. We're going to hear about potential recreation projects in the Superior area, and we're going to give you all a chance to give feedback or additional ideas for us to consider in this project. Okay, so what is START? A collaborative effort to enhance the opportunities for trails, recreation activities, and facilities, and visitor amenities in the greater Superior area, including relevant portions of the Globe District on the Tonto National Forest. START envisions a network of safe, equitable, and accessible outdoor recreation opportunities. So this is a Forest Service planning effort to plan recreation and Forest Service lands, but there are other landowners and stakeholders in our planning area, so obviously we want to gain their input and look for opportunities to connect the recreation on the surrounding lands as well, to really get that recreation network. Next slide. The roller's not working. Okay. So you can read the. Oh.
Do we go back?
Yeah, go back one. Yeah, that one. So you can see the partners that we've been working with through this process. Our goal is to get as many user groups represented in this process as possible. So you'll see the town, you'll see hikers represented, you'll see motorized users represented, equestrians and rock climbers, and others. Okay, so the START process began in spring of 2022, but all the partners have been working together for over 8 years. They've identified, mapped, and prioritized potential recreation projects, coordinated on current projects, work to carry forward recent and existing plans of the town and Tonto National Forest, and provided a forum for information sharing among diverse recreation interests. Next slide, please.
It's alright, had a mosquito.
Okay, so I brought a pointer with me. So up on the north, so this is our planning area. This box around here is our planning area. On the north end of that box is the Superstition Wilderness, and you have Forest Service boundary. Then down here you have a lot of state land, and then on the south and southeast is BLM land, and then you have Top of the World over here, and more forest land, and then of course we have the town of Superior right smack in the middle of our planning area. So that's just to kind of get you oriented as to what the areas we're looking at. Okay, so that's our planning area. So what are the issues that we're trying to address inside this planning area? Increased number of recreationists are coming to the Superior area, so we know Phoenix is growing, and so we know that the use and the visitation is going to increase. Community's desire for an increased number and diversity of recreation opportunities. So what do those people do or want to do when they come out to this area? Overcrowding, conflicts, and safety issues between user groups. That's the public safety piece. And then the creation of wildcat roads and trails. That's the resource protection piece. Need for promotion of recreation opportunities, as well as education about responsible recreation practices. Lack of funding for construction and maintenance of the recreation facility. So how do we fund the construction and maintenance of this network of recreation? Oh, it's working now. Okay. So this is the process that we've been going through. It's kind of hard to read that far away. So the first box is the assessment and setting goals, and we did that. Southwest Decision Resources helped us do that at the very beginning. Identification of potential projects, which included the mapping. We have a GIS group in the Forest Service that helped us with mapping, and then an initial list of project ideas. And then once we got those project lists, we prioritized those. That was the last thing we did. And so now we're at the community engagement piece. Once we get through the community engagement piece, it shows that we're ready to implement, but there is a step in between there that I want to throw in there. The Forest Service will put these projects through our environmental analysis process, which also provides for more public comments. Once that is signed by our forest supervisor, then we can move to the implementation part. So I wanted to make sure I put that part in there, because there is a step in between. When the START team evaluated and prioritized the projects, we used these criteria. Do they improve recreation tourism experience for residents and visitors? Do they help reduce users' conflicts and improve safety? Protect and address issues surrounding natural and cultural resources? Mitigate overuse, resource damage? Discourage use of wildcat roads? Support the town of Superior in developing relevant economic opportunities and enhancing residents' quality of life? Oh, sorry. That's that slide. Okay, so we have focus areas. Inside the planning area, we have the Montana Mountain area there. We have the picket post area. The airport is that small box. Three Canyons is this box. Woods Canyon is this box. And then this is Highway 177 corridor. And I know it's hard to read from that far, but we broke it down into in areas to make it easier to talk about. So we're going to give a summary of the projects in each of these areas by those people who are most familiar with those areas and user groups. And the projects we're proposing, so Cheryl Cormack is going to do, let's see, she's going to do Montana Mountain and Picket Post.
All right, so in this area, some of our proposed plans are to do some longer loops. Let's see how to turn this on. Do some longer non-motorized loops kind of in the middle of this hashtag zone. This zone is a proposed permit zone for OHV use. And then we're also interested in doing construction and maintenance of the current roads that are there. Not too much in that area. Okay, and then in the picket post area, so right now we get a lot of use at the trailhead and there's not enough room, so we're proposing an overflow parking lot right here. And then that overflow parking lot will also have some trails that'll connect to the Arizona Trail. There'll be some Arizona Trail reroutes, so the Arizona Trail runs, I think I'm on it in this direction. Yeah, I think I'm right there. North and south, and there's a few reroutes that we want to do to avoid some cultural sites. And then there's also going to be some non-motorized trails that will go around Picket Post and kind of tie in with the current Lost Trail to make a good loop system. I think Greg is next. He's going to go into the airport area.
All right, so I'm not a professional at this, and that's a long way away from my old days. I don't know how to work this thing.
Do you want me to point when you talk?
There we go.
Right.
So what we're really planning to do down there is to reroute some of the motorized access to the area, so it's not just a free-for-all, and get rid of the wildcat roads, and build a parking lot or trailhead that's actually, can be contained the way it should be, and that'll be down near the jungle area. And the jungle area will be sort of a daytime picnic area. Into a new non-motorized trail. So we'll have a few more trails down there too. So you can go to Wagon Wheels out of there. You can go to Picket Post or over to Arnett Creek out of there. That's your two. You can go to Picket Post. There'll be some interpretive signage there. Whatever the archaeologists feel would, represent the area the way it should be represented. And I think afterwards we can have questions about this, right? Now we're just kind of giving an overlay.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to talk about Woods Canyon too.
Got it. Got it.
There are three canyons is we skipped. Woods Canyon is the
Yeah.
next one.
Oh, you can go to Woods Canyon.
Okay, Woods Canyon, I don't know if many have ever been back there. It's a beautiful canyon. We're putting in the Forest Service is planning a new parking lot now, so the Woods Canyon on that trailhead. So there's actually another real trailhead on the east end of all this, so people have a place to go and park and feel like they're in the right spot instead of just parking wherever they want to. There's actually approximately 69 miles of non-motorized loop trails and hiking for equestrian, mountain bikes, and hikers back there that we're working on. So we'll limit the use of Woods Canyon Road to probably just a administrative road to the travel management plan, and with access to whoever has cattle back there and all that stuff too, so they can get back there. So that's the Woods Canyon project. It's a very big project. You're talking about 69 miles of trails. So, I can I can answer questions. I walked a lot of that land, and same with the Canal City. You know, I've seen a lot of that, so anybody got any questions, we can talk about it afterwards, I guess.
Yeah, we'll do questions later.
So whoever's next, here's the plan.
Good evening. Trail has been real active on recommending things from the motorized point of view on how to develop things. We did a lot of the hiking around, trying to find a bypass for the Trail 4 reroute that was done because the trail had been on Emrys property, and we needed to move that off of their property on forest land. So we did quite a bit of hiking around in the bushes out there, trying to find a viable route for that. We were involved in making recommendations on location and design of the Three Canyons parking area trailhead. We'll probably be involved in the one that Greg was referring to for the one for Wood Canyon. And I don't know if he said that or not, but it's probably going to be closed off from motorized traffic, so it'll be a non-motorized area. So it will be gated at probably as an admin route only at the trailhead. Some of the other things that we're trying to help them shape up and design is a learners area where people can take new equipment or new riders or take their kids out in a small controlled area, and it's close to the main roads and it's close to town, and they can have designed obstacles and routes in a small controlled area where there won't be a lot of other traffic of experienced riders going, you know, faster and high volume of traffic. Another area that we're working on is on either mostly east of the 177, which would be south off of the existing map here, for some single track routes out there. There's a lot of wildcat riders out there right now going all over the place, and we'd like to sort of control that, block off the routes that aren't viable, and then design an actual route system out there where they can have good viable riding areas where they're going to be marked routes. And there's a lot of wildcat routes kind of scattered all over the place. We're trying to figure out how to sign those and close those off so everybody stays on the regular maintained trails.
All right, thanks. And then we do have some area-wide projects that are going to be across the whole project area, and that's to coordinate a fund for trail maintenance, a recreation shooting plan, a comprehensive signage plan, and closed routes in accordance with our Tonto National Forest new travel management plan, and then plan for access and preservation of recreation opportunities in the case of the land exchange, which would include rock climbing and some more motorized and hiking. Okay, so what's next? We want to incorporate thoughts and ideas from the community, finalize the list and maps of high priority projects, assess potential impacts on environmental and cultural resources, complete the final design for projects, implement projects, and then conduct maintenance and additional work. Next slide. Okay, and so this is the part where we want to get your feedback. So we're going to have, after this meeting, we're going to have our maps available, and we'll be here to answer any questions and discuss any ideas after this presentation. And then also on in your packet there, you can fill out the survey questions that you received. And then we also want you to share that with others so we can get more comments. And it sounds like Superior is going to post that on their Facebook page. So now we're posing the question to you all to get feedback. So what are your impressions of the potential projects we described? And do you have any additional ideas or needs for recreation? And as you ask those questions, obviously, any of our team members can answer those.
Well, I just personally want to thank everyone who's been on the START team, specifically Jim Shank, who's our backup to backups and represents Lost on the, he and Greg both represent Lost, but sometimes they're the backup for Todd and I because these have been very, pretty long-standing meetings and lots of planning that's gone in. So thank you, and to Greg Waterman and Bill Scott, who are also Lost board members and do a lot with their Anthem hiking club that comes out and helps us work on all of our trails. But thank you to the Forest Service. Council, this is a great time to ask any questions you may have or ask for some specifics, or if there's anyone from the public who wishes to bring up an item regarding this presentation. The floor is open. Staff?
Question. On the Montana mountain area, we talk about, and I apologize, I showed up late, so, where it says potential permit zone use for motorized use, are there gonna be permits required to drive out in that area?
Yeah, I can answer that. Yes, there would be a permit required in that area to ride.
So if you have like like my side-by-side, I have my HOV permit, my license plate, you have to buy another permit on top of that?
Are you talking about the decal?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be in addition to that.
And what, I guess, without really being familiar with the SMAP, what areas would that be? There's like a switchback area and whatnot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loop.
Oh, okay, the loop. And is that limited permits?
I think you're talking about a 6-month permit.
Yeah, it's, you can get, the way we're planning it now, it would be like a daily permit or a monthly or a 6-month or a year. You'd have the option of getting those type of permits.
Have you guys discussed fees at all, what that would look like?
So currently we have a fee proposal that we're preparing to take to a resource advisory committee for areas on the Mesa district and the Cave Creek district. And so and we already have a permit zone that is under operation right now, but the permit is free, so there's no fee yet. And so that's what we're proposing. So, but this would not be part of that current proposal.
So like for those of us who are hunters, when we pay our decal and then we have to put in for the permit and the registration to hunt, and if we draw the tag, that's an additional cost. Do we have to buy this permit to hunt that area as well?
Yes, you'd have to have the permit to access the area.
Who would police that?
It would be our law enforcement and county law enforcement can enforce that as
I
well.
don't see anybody out there. I see an occasional, United States Forest Service truck driving down the road, but you don't see them, I don't see them anywhere else out there. I don't know how you'd enforce it, honestly.
So currently on the Bulldog area on Mesa, we have gates at entry points, and the permit gives you the code to the gates for 6 months, and that's currently how we're doing it. So there's potential to do it that way. We kind of want to get away from that if we can, but that's the current way because we don't have enough people or staffing like you're talking
Right.
about. We're using gates with combination codes, and so that's how it's enforced right now.
You know, I think that the vice mayor brings up an interesting point. When we discussed this, I mean, the idea is to generate some money for maintenance and to have more presence there. Personally, I would think one of the possibilities, we're looking at recreational users. I live in town. I have no problem paying for a 6-month tag so I can drive my Jeep around Montana Mountain when I feel like it. But I also know that this is a town where hunting is really important. And I think we could consider something that if you've got tags and
and it's hunting season, you would have to pay something else. I mean, that could be considered.
Yeah, and actually, right now, we're taking comments on that process down on those other districts. And so we get public comments, like you're expressing, about those things, about what about hunters and stuff like that. So we give the public an opportunity to make comments on that. So if we were to go to a permit area in Montana mountain area, there would be an opportunity for public comments.
Yeah, I have some comments. You don't get these wildcat roads and trails keep, under control. We're gonna lose this desert, because they're out there almost every weekend, just tearing that desert up. And I see it, and it's just disgusting to me. Not to mention the trash and stuff that is already out there. Secondly, I totally agree with your signage effort. I mean, I was just out to Canal City and where the mill is, the old Sophie Mill up there, and if you don't know they're there, you can't even see it. And that's our history, and those are the things that draw people to come out here, like the trail, the wagon wheel trail. That's why people want to come out here and look. So I'm totally in agreement with doing some signage, as long as it's not, 20 by 10, the small stuff is what I'd like to see. And additionally, just a question about the roads. Like the road that goes from like the Highlands area around to the 177. Are you guys, why aren't you maintaining those roads anymore? I just don't understand it. I mean, the rains come through, and I know that the town has made some effort. I hope this is not a secret, to go out there and fill in some of that drainage that comes across and basically wipes those roads out where you can't get through on a regular four-wheel vehicle. And on top of that, it's kind of an exit route for people that live in the Highlands, because if we get flooding at the bottom of the hill on Telegraph Canyon Road, we're stuck there. So if we have an emergency and we need to go around, we need to use that Telegraph Canyon Road that goes up to the 177. And you guys haven't really maintained that road. And to me, it's disturbing. Matter of fact, most of the Forest Service roads aren't very well maintained anymore. What is the problem with getting a grader out there and fixing those roads and keeping them up to at least some kind of a standard where people can drive on them and use them?
Yeah, so I'll address a couple of questions here. So if I can back up real quick around the permitting piece. So just so everybody's clear on why the U.S. Forest Service approaches certain areas for permitting for either OHV use or whether that's day use fees for a recreation site. It's important, I think, that people understand we really, as an agency, don't really receive funding from federal dollars for recreation management. We just don't really receive much of that. It's extremely limited. And so in order for us to provide these recreation opportunities, that's something that essentially has to be supplemented in some way. So currently for OHV, which I would agree is a bit of an issue. I think it's, in my mind, it's one of the largest pieces out there causing actual environmental damage in the local area. And so currently, right now, we don't have anybody to do that. We rely on grants from the state that you pay for through when you get your decal, in order to maybe hire a couple of seasonal OHV patrollers that can help try to do some enforcement to some degree, but that's kind of the limited extent of our funding around this. When we're discussing permit areas, I think it's really important for people to recognize, because we get the argument a lot, well, I already paid my taxes. That's true, but your taxes don't actually pay for this. And so, I just wanted to kind of address that piece. And then to the roads piece, the roads on the Tonto National Forest are in poor condition as a general rule. And again, it goes back to what is Congress funding, how are we budgeted, and so in today's world, in the United States Forest Service, the bulk of our budget goes to fire and aviation management. Obviously, that's a problem throughout the western U.S. That's basically the nation's, as the United States Forest Service goes, the #1 priority is handling that situation of attempting to do something about the wildfire crisis. And so it's not quite as simple as just ordering a grader, because we may not have one. aren't funded that way, and that's just kind of, those are decisions that are made far beyond the local level as to what's been funded.
Believe it or not, I do understand that, but unless I bring it up at this meeting and tell you, and then you tell somebody else, nothing's gonna happen. So that's why I'm bringing it up. I understand I've heard the arguments, so I understand your fiscal, problems, but if you don't bring it up here, this gives you ammunition. Now you can go talk and say, hey, the town of Superior, we were at the council meeting and they're complaining about the roads out there. Will it go anywhere? I doubt it, but eventually somebody might show up and somebody might decide to do it, so just.
A quick comment, they did grade, forestry has a grader, it goes around to all the roads and hits pretty much once a year, they hit the major roads. But they don't have time they can import fill, they don't have time to do multiple passes, they do it one pass on the road and get it as good as they can and move on to the next one. And they did all those roads out there 2 weeks ago. It's hard to tell,
Yeah.
but they did do them. So they're
Yeah, I
trying.
saw that.
It's just limited resources. One of the things that we might as a town consider, since all of that road is now in town limits, is working with the forestry to adopt it as a formal right of way, and the town can maintain it, but then we would have to go out and buy a grader and we're back to the money problem. So, eventually we will have to do that. But for right now, I just don't see us having deep enough pockets to help shore up the forest in it.
Yeah, but you're right, once we talk about it.
I have one more comment. I think, Jason, you said it as kind of in passing at the beginning, that all this stuff that starts doing, and your comment was, it basically has to go up the ladder to your boss for approval. So basically what I'm understanding is you have all these wonderful ideas, but all these ideas, which are great, still have to go to the next level to be approved, so.
Yes, so this is a Forest Service process and Forest Service project. We're leading this because it's on Forest Service land. And so, we're only looking at these improvements on Forest Service land. Obviously, we know that's going to benefit, or we're trying to benefit the town and that kind of thing. But yeah, we are, it is a Forest Service project. And so our forest supervisor has to sign off that we can go forward with these projects, and then we also have to go through our environmental analysis process.
So other than reviewing what you do, is he involved in the process at all? I mean, is he aware of what's going on? Do you have to give him weekly reports?
Yes, he knows what's going on.
So basically, my point is that if he's really involved, then by the time it comes to signing off on the project, he should be ready to do that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm fairly confident that, we'll be able to get a quick resolution to a proposal that.
Yeah, because you don't want to do all this work and then go up there and say, well, we're not going to approve this.
Correct.
So that's why I say, he's involved in the process on a regular basis, and if at some point he determines, well, this is not going to work for whatever reason, then you can at least look at doing it some other way.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we can take parts out and those kind of things, and the district ranger, Adam, has been briefing him on our progress and the process along the way.
Good to know.
And Jason, one more quick question, because I think all of this start work is very thorough and it was respectful and mindful of RUG's original work. And I know all of this, we've talked about this as being like a wish list and wanting this wish list done in our lifetimes. Greg and I talk a lot about the timeliness of the work. RUG was going to be funded by mitigations through the Resolution Copper FEIS and the record of decision being signed. Is there a potential that with the FEIS coming out that theoretically it's in the FEIS that could those funds and those mitigation plans could fund the START projects and we can move those forward because there was this larger NEPA? Are we trying to coalesce that a little bit to maybe that helps us bump up this timeline, so maybe I'm actually still walking to be able to enjoy some of these trails?
Right. So as far as, I don't know what is going on with the EIS as far as when it's going to be signed. The road process was done, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And so we're just waiting for that, and so, you know, we don't really know when that's gonna happen, and Adam can speak to,
Well,
the funding, or, I don't know how that's gonna work.
And for council and the public, I mean, I know when we started this was like the caveat to the fact that the EIS was, held back. And I wanna also, just in honor of START, where we're at today with START is that we actually met about START the day the Telegraph fire started. You know, I think we were all meeting and then it was like, oh wait, our town is probably gonna catch on fire. So, totally echo Councilmember Armitage's, comments on the 230 road, because that's ingress, egress, but again, and I know you guys politically can't say anything, I'm just expressing that because we need to start being in preparation if and when the FEIS comes out, that these conversations have to start being more prevalent and relevant to the conversation, that RUG was respected in the FEIS, but now here's some plans that the Forest Service is much more willing to adopt versus RUG, which was kind of those little caveats that were in there.
So we will be looking for funding when this START process is through and we have our own environmental analysis done. We will be looking for funding. So where that comes from, whether it's resolution or, you know, wherever else, we'll be looking for funding. So yeah, we would want to take advantage of that if it's possible.
I think one of the issues when we look at a lot of these projects, one of the resource constraints on the Forest Service and the projects that we're looking at that make things less timely is the necessity of NEPA studies that the Forest Service does not have the resources to do. And that's an area where we saw less of an issue with resolution. So let's see what happens. I see that as changing the timeline.
Yeah. So that's just a statement, really. Not. I know you guys really can't answer that question theoretically, but I think it's a conversation that everyone who's been on START has to be very mindful of, because that, you know, what we're hearing right now is that timeline is moving much faster at the federal level, and we can't be behind the 8 ball at the district level knowing these, and I know you guys have these different silos, and I get it, we've lived through the silos, but we're going to have to be very aggressive in that time period, and that's going to be a requirement for LOST and all the stakeholder groups, and so we're kind of stating it here publicly, what's gone on, and you know, I don't know if everybody else heard, but I guess the Telegraph fire was deemed inconclusive as to how the fire got started. Really a little sad that the town wasn't sent a press release. I got it on a text message from a friend of a friend of a friend. So, you know, a little bummed that we didn't quite find the answer to that, but you guys don't really have anything to do with that. But that all plays into what we're talking about. Forest fire safety, creating these fire breaks that create this environment. And we don't have time to be waiting and waiting and waiting. And I know when I go back and talk to Congress and Eli and Representative Crane, we have to start fixing, we have to get you guys more resources, because this is a very busy area that needs the resources. We have more trails than Moab, Utah does, technically.
So I can also comment to that as the facilitator of the process. As Jim was saying, one point of having this priority list was to make sure that we could get through that environmental analysis process so it could go faster. But the other point of it is, if the land exchange did happen, we would have a whole list of priorities that we could throw at them and say, please fund this in addition to the RUG stuff. So we not only have identified projects, but we prioritize all those top to bottom with what is the most important, middle important, and like, yeah, if we can get there kind of importance. And they're all balanced across recreation interests. We also have a list of contingency projects where recreationalists have actually already been in negotiations with resolution, and they're kind of brainstorming projects where if the land exchange does happen, here's some access points in recreation areas that need to be preserved. So we actually have a whole separate list of projects that we would want to happen if the land exchange happened. So just wanted to highlight that whole thinking has really been incorporated into this process, and I feel that if the land exchange did occur, this group would be very ready to react. Another thing to highlight is that a very large priority project in this list is to create a fund for trail maintenance. So what they're really looking for in mentioning the roads and the trails that need to maintain what we have, being creative and getting money together, not just from the town, not just from the forest, but there are models where collaboratively partners have gotten funds to keep some money there so that there's more ability throughout the entire area for partners to help maintain all of those things. So we're really trying to look ahead and be ready to react to whatever happens here.
Any other questions or comments from
I have
council?
a question. Do you have a number of how many trails you're gonna close off to motorized use and how many new ones you're gonna create? Anything like that that you had planned on of what you're doing for like closures?
Like numbers of miles of trail?
Just certain, like, there's so many trails that you plan that you're gonna say no more motorized use. These new ones aren't gonna be motorized use, those kind of things, 'cause I mean, I've been riding this area for a long time. I actually went out on your new trail not too long ago myself. It's nice, and then it gets rougher than a camp trout, but hey.
Right, so I don't think we have that with us of how many additional miles of trail, that we have, but that's information that we can get.
I was just curious to know if there was gonna be more closures, than new openings, cause that would be a concern that if we see it, that if we're closing off more non-motorized, people tend to go around them, create their own trails, do that kind of stuff, and is that gonna be an issue?
So in our travel management plan, we have areas that are deemed to be decommissioned. We're working on our motor use visitor map, which we have to have in place before we can close those decommissioned areas. But in the start plan, there is, I would say there's more new trails than ones that are going to be closed in travel management.
I know you guys came out, probably the last year or so, and you put up signs, and half of them are probably all gone, they're all over, and they're just crazy.
Yes.
I'd make a comment. We ride up here quite a bit in the area and enjoy it very much. And we almost always come to the restaurants and eat afterwards. Enjoy your town very much. Trail maintenance is a problem, and the funding for trail maintenance is a problem. And this can't leave this room, but have you ever thought of, anybody hear me mention the word tax? A small 1/4% recreation tax at your restaurants, it would go back to the trail maintenance. It might be a way to generate a little bit of income for trail maintenance from the people that are actually using them. Something to think about, that nobody heard me mention, I want.
It's definitely a consideration.
We'll put your picture up on the wall.
We
Did I really say
appreciate, we appreciate the idea. To be honest, you know, one of the opportunities Jim and I also participate in Arizona, what's their All Trails group? Network for Arizona Trails. And, you know, one of the envious parts of the Coconino Forest is they talk about all this money that they have. And I'm like, how do you get all this money? How come the Tonto doesn't have this money? I need this money in my town. And it's because they have resort fees and hotel fees and all of these, you know, they have a trails, they have a whole bike or bus system that they charge people for and make revenues for, that then funds the nonprofits that support, that works alongside the Tonto National Forest. And the reality is we don't have the bed nights, even in the Globe Ranger District, to afford that. I'm sorry, I don't think we want to add $250 to the Best 8 hotel in Globe to help fund our trails where they're already just sleeping in their trucks just to use the showers. So, you know, but there are things like that we can do that would be, the users would fund, but unfortunately the economics of scale isn't quite there yet for Superior.
Better trails, more people.
Better trails, more people. I agree. We just gotta find that money, so. Anything else, questions, comments from the public?
I have just something that, just clarification on, when you gentlemen Greg, I'm sorry. So when you were talking about the airport area, you mentioned that the jungle area would be a daytime picnic area. But in here it says, the second bullet, that it would be new parking area and campground. So is it gonna be daytime, or are you allowed to camp there as well?
Well, campground would be Castleberry, that would be the exchange for Oak Flats that the Resolution Copper bought, but, you know, we're not supposed to talk about that much, because that's not you know, we don't know when it's gonna happen, so that was why that campground.
Oh, okay, that's, when you were presenting it, it sounded like it was one and the same for that area.
Actually, maybe you should share the For over a year, we've been talking about what's the best parking spot for that area. And there've been like 3 options. You've got feedback.
So we were out there actually today with 2 archaeologists and Jason from the Forest Service. We looked at 3 spots for a parking area. And the best one we came up with is right down by the jungle where everybody parks now. And that's already been disturbed.
Front of the gates to Castleberry.
Yep. So that would be, we're working on that, you know, because it takes a lot of investigation and paperwork to figure out that's the spot. Because everything else, there's ruins everywhere over there. It was a big place at one time. So we looked at that today and we hope that's our spot. So one of the retired archaeologists from the Forest Service volunteered to help us, and he's gonna look into the paperwork and see if he can find out when that was done and so we don't have to do it again.
Thank you.
Mayor, quick suggestion, we're gonna have our regular meeting here in 10 minutes, and if the council wants to take a break, we could close this meeting, let everybody speak one-on-one with on the questions.
And unless there's any other formal questions or concerns, I will call for a motion to adjourn the work session.
So moved.
There's a motion by Councilmember Lopez. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Byrd. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, and we will resume our next meeting at 7 o'clock.
Thanks for showing up, people. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
Thank you guys for all your time.
Yep.